Well, I am not excited to tell you that despite thinking that shingles affected those more geriatric individuals, definitely not people who are so young as what I am in my 40s. I was wrong and I got shingles. I have not had it before, however, I have been quite selfishly relieved to hear that there were people who are as young as teenagers who actually get it. So safe in the knowledge that I am not old. But what is probably more intriguing than me trying to determine whether or not shingles made me an old person is whether or not I got shingles as a consequence of incorporating twice weekly 40-hour fasts into my routine. Now, as always, I am not a doctor. I am sharing my own individual experience with fasting in my weight loss journey in my 40s. I am not advising that what I do is definitely going to work for you, just sharing my experience, particularly after trying all the diets, all the exercise, all the things, and then discovering that fasting actually worked with my weight loss. So if you want to keep hearing about my fasting experience, make sure you subscribe. Now, I'm an advocate for various fasting protocols, and I've been sharing my experience in regards to weight loss and the benefits that I'm finding from fasting. So when shingles struck, my immediate thought was, nope, I'm too young. But unfortunately, I was not too young. And then I started thinking about whether or not it was connected to my fasting. Today, I'm going to share what I experienced, what I think contributed to shingles, and the lessons that I learned, so hopefully you won't experience the same thing. Now let's rewind a few weeks. I was feeling pretty good. I was doing mostly 20-hour fasts with some fasting breaks around my cycle, as I've previously mentioned in other videos. Fasting in the days leading up to your period is not recommended and is almost impossible in my experience, without being completely miserable, hungry, and a bit ragey. Now, I had decided that I wanted to incorporate some longer fasts, particularly 40 hours, and I have been incorporating some 36 and 40-hour fasts to build up. Now, I track my fasts, and I'm going to talk about this in a future video and what I use to track my fasts, but I can confirm in the 2 weeks leading up to me getting shingles, I had done 4 fasts that were 40 to 42 hours in duration. I had also lost 2 kgs, so felt like I was kind of kicking fasting's ass and really getting into the swing of things. However, during the few days prior to getting shingles, I noticed some weird symptoms. In particular, pain around my lymph nodes on my left side. They got really sore and then they swelled up. And I knew that was a bit of a sign that there was a virus impacting the body and that my body was fighting it. However, it wasn't enough to prevent me from working or to encourage me to see a doctor. I then noticed a weird rash on my left side, which is not something I would normally get, and it was kind of like in dots in one place. It was also a bit sore. However, again, not enough to send me to the doctor. I went away for the weekend with my family and finally mentioned some of my symptoms to my husband, as I was feeling pretty tired and the pain was getting worse. He was very quick off the mark, declaring that I obviously had shingles, which until I looked it up a few hours later, I vehemently denied. No way, did not have shingles. But then when I actually took the time to look it up and think about it and the pain, I realized that there was a possibility there that he could be right. Unfortunately, we were somewhere that was a little bit more remote, so access to healthcare was not readily available. It was a on-call, super expensive option. However, as everything was pointing to shingles, and I knew that if I was going to get less impact from the symptoms, that an antiviral was required, I did the on-call expensive option, and it was confirmed that I had shingles. So what exactly is shingles? For those who don't know, shingles is caused by the varicella zoster virus. I don't know, I could be pronouncing that wrong. It's the same virus that causes the chickenpox. If you've had chickenpox, then the virus never actually leaves the body. It lies dormant in your nerve tissue. Shingles occurs when that virus reactivates. So the virus is always there, just waiting for me. But the question was, why did it reactivate? What actually set it off? Generally, it's believed to be by a weakened immune system. Things like stress, aging, medications, illness can all lower your immunity and give that virus a chance to flare up. Now, I have never had shingles before, and it was pretty strange to me that something had kicked this off, which is why my mind went to fasting. So let's talk about my fasting. For a long time, I've seen fasting as a way to boost my health and my immune system. Autophagy, cellular repair, reduced inflammation, these are all potential benefits of fasting. And I still fully believe in the power of fasting. However, during the period leading up to my shingles outbreak, I had been pushing my fasting window further. The 40 to 42 hour fasts within a fortnight, probably a little bit extreme. That is effectively 6 days without eating in a 2-week period. When I really thought that through, that's quite significant. Almost a week that I didn't eat. I should have lost way more than 2 kilos. I then looked at the other days where I wasn't fasting, but checked to see what my fasting window actually was. And I realized for almost every single remaining day, I had fasted a minimum of 15 to 20 hours. Suddenly, it kind of looked like my fasting schedule may have triggered my immune system to get a little bit angry. And that little dormant virus could have definitely had the opportunity to take hold. Because while fasting can definitely be beneficial, it is also a stressor on the body. It can signal that resources are temporarily scarce. My theory, and again, this is my own speculation, is the combination of increased fasting and not enough refeeding or nutrients in the time that I wasn't fasting, as well as those shorter fasts that I was still incorporating on a daily basis, had tipped my immune system over the edge. It might not have been the fasting itself that caused it, but I suspect my immune system was compromised and couldn't handle the additional stress that all the fasting was putting on my body. And then the virus took hold. So did my fasting cause my shingles? The short answer is, while the virus was already in my body, so I didn't create the virus, I believe that my body was impacted by my fasting, my immune system lowered, and yeah, my fasting tipped it over the edge. It was definitely a wake-up call for me to reassess what I was doing with my fasting schedule. It has made me much more mindful of balancing the impacts of fasting and healthy eating. If I'm stressed, run down, not sleeping well, fasting is not the best option. I also need to be way more aware of the frequency of my fasts. I love a long fast, but perhaps twice a week with shorter fasts is too much. I have adopted a few things to help support me with my fasting as well. It's been a short time, so I don't know how much of a difference they're actually making yet, but one of them is a good quality greens powder. I'll take this after a longer fast just to give my body some extra nutrients straight away. I've bought a 0-calorie non-flavoured electrolyte to make sure that I'm really keeping on top of those minerals and things that you lose during fasting. I track my cycle on my Apple Health app on my phone so that I know when the best times to fast are and when I should definitely not be fasting, i.e. those days leading up to when I get my period. And I track my fast using the app Easy Fast to make sure that I'm not overdoing my fasting schedule. And I'm doing a video on the Easy Fast app and how to use it, and it's free, so if you want to check that out, I'll make sure I link it on the screen. So what have I learned from this incredibly uncomfortable experience? Firstly, listen to your body. Dial back on fasting when you're not feeling 100%. Second, make sure your stress is within control. This can be another trigger for shingles. 3, I am way more vigilant about my nutrient timing and density of getting good quality food and not fasting all the time. Number 4, not all fasting is equal. Incorporating longer fasts needs more scheduling and planning for me. I need to make sure that I'm eating the right foods and I'm giving my body enough time between longer fasts. And 5, seek medical advice. Seriously, if you've got swollen lymph nodes, pain, and a rash, do not wait until you're in a remote part of the country without ready access to healthcare to go to a doctor. Go earlier. So that is my painful experience with shingles. Would love to hear any comments on any experiences you might have had with fasting and shingles. And thanks very much for watching.